much do we know about the now presumptive Democratic nominee, VP Kamala Harris? Well, we certainly can't rely on legacy media to tell us now, can we? They would rather throw themselves under the bus, denying the title border czar they gave her, than associate her with any negative truth. We're digging into the other gaslighting, including what women actually think about her, and more importantly, how she would be received by foreign leaders. I'm Kristi Leigh with the counter narrative.
Side.
The gaslighting is on hyperdrive. It's truly a sight to see. Breitbart broke down 5 ways the Democrats and their puppet media are trying to control the narrative. Number 1, hiding Biden's cognitive decline. On February 21st, 2024, Harris told an interviewer, "Our president's fine. He's in good health, ready for the second term." And there are at least 14 other instances of Harris affirming Biden's overall fitness. And then now suddenly she's stepping in, taking the torch because he's clearly not fit to lead right now. Watch this.
What do you say to those concerns, specifically if he had to pass the powers to you for 1 second, 1 minute, heaven forbid, and I ask with all due respect, but are you capable, are you ready to step into the role and do whatever the country would need?
Absolutely ready. But thank God our president is in good shape, in good health, and is ready to lead in our second term.
We now know that was a lie, and we know that she knew that was a lie, but she repeated it because that was the narrative that they were going with at that time. Number 2, casting as offensive questions about Harris's competency is the other way we're being gaslit. Any criticism of the candidate will be painted as racist or misogynistic, even pointing out the obvious that she was given the VP position based on color, which Biden himself has boasted about. Pundits have inferred that as equivalent to using the N-word, if you dare say she was DEI hire. Again, even though Biden basically said that. There's some criticism about Trump not yet agreeing to debate Kamala, but this is what he's walking into. He literally cannot debate anything, be critical of anything without expecting those labels hurled at him. So he does have to be careful how he does this. But as I was reminded the other day, this isn't the first time he's been up against a woman. He was up against Hillary and he handled himself fine in a debate with her. So we'll see. Number 3, claiming Harris was selected from the grassroots bottom up. Senator Chuck Schumer shockingly describes the Dem nominee switcheroo as grassroots. When no voter actually selected her as the nominee, she was appointed by the elitist oligarch deciding for the voters. They pressured Biden out and coronated their queen. Even BLM, Black Lives Matter, issued a statement saying, quote, "We do not live in a dictatorship. Delegates are not oligarchs. Any attempt to evade or override the will of the voters in our primary system must be condemned." Number 4, covering for Harris's record on illegal immigration. This might possibly be the most laughable of them all. So ridiculous, wild to see that anyone would defend what is happening here. The same media that referred to her as the border czar for years are now saying she was never tasked with the border. Axios even claimed this after the publication itself had referred to her as the border czar. The puppets have been throwing themselves under the bus to protect Kamala. But here's Biden when he delegated the border to Kamala. Watch.
I've asked her, the VP today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and the countries that help. We're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks stemming the migration to our southern border.
It is all semantics at this point. The point is, if the Biden administration was proud of the way the border has been handled, they wouldn't want to distance Kamala from any responsibility of the border management. And then there's lastly number 5, deleting the GovTrack page rating Harris as the most liberal senator. Axios wasn't the only website to attempt to rewrite history. Supposedly nonpartisan website GovTrack deleted its page that painted Harris in a radical light. The link now showing page not found. The website offered the excuse that the page was based on statistics from a single congressional session, which site owners decided to discontinue after determining this data not sufficient to create a reliable portrait of the activity of legislators. But if this was discontinued years ago, as they say, why are they just now getting around to deleting the page? And who gave that directive? James Carville gave a reality check. Obviously, James Carville is the popular pundit that is constantly all in on the Dems. He gave the reality check, though, that while polls seem favorable to the excitement of someone new on the ticket, this honeymoon for the Democrats, it's not going to last. Watch this.
I'm telling you, this is the best day that she's going to have for the rest of the campaign. They're coming. And they're coming they were pit. They were bad. They were confused, but they're getting unconfused now.
They're getting unconfused, and they cannot have it so that the steal is not believable again. So if this is truly the honeymoon and things start to look grim, who knows? Anything is on the table of what they're going to do. Now, we did have the news break that the Obamas are now supporting Kamala. So we'll see what happens. But there's nothing wrong with Trump not agreeing to debate somebody just yet when clearly Democrats can change their mind last minute and the rules don't apply to them and they do whatever they want. So we'll see what happens there. There's really been no discussion on her policies yet. America First Legal, a nonprofit conservative legal watchdog group, is launching investigations into her record. It says, quote, the group is probing the vice president for failure to comply with federal donor privacy laws, failure to enforce federal immigration laws, failure to pursue equal justice, failure to disclose conflicts of interest, failure to address evidence of misconduct, the nature of probes by the California Fair Practices Commission, and potential cover-up of misconduct evidence. The truth will pierce through all of the gaslighting propaganda. Now, speaking of gaslighting, Democrats love hyping up January 6th, even implying there were plans to kill Vice President Pence that day. Well, the FBI director has now debunked that claim. He said, quote, I'm not aware of any physical gallows. It might have been a replica or symbol. It was revealed that Wray claims he doesn't know who built the gallows or why it was able to remain up, even though these people came in and they built these gallows hours before. We already are under suspicion that there was FBI informants and useful idiots that were used on January 6th. So the fact that they don't know who did this when they can track down everybody else is not only strange, but indicative that more funny business from these agencies. We never did get the real story behind January 6th with a bipartisan committee, but you think we'll get one with a Trump assassination attempt bipartisan committee? The Daily Caller says House passes bipartisan resolution establishing Trump assassination attempt task force. It was spearheaded by House Speaker Mike Johnson and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, passed the House in a unanimous vote. The task force will be composed of 7 Republicans and 6 Democrats. I wonder if this will be actually Republicans or rhinos. Speaking of rhinos, former Speaker Kevin McCarthy is still beefing with Matt Gaetz. He's reportedly behind this guy, Aaron Dimmick, challenging Gaetz' seat in Congress. But why is Dimmick running for a Florida seat if he still has a job in Missouri? The Republican governor of Missouri is asking Dimmick to resign from his job in that state if he intends to run as a Florida candidate. Up next, will women fall for identity politics and vote for Kamala just because she's a female? Because now we know what a woman is. Okay. We discuss with another host for Patriot TV, Annie Cyrus, as well as her breaking the news that Iran was plotting to kill Trump long before they decided to roll that narrative back out. But first, let's hear from our sponsors that make this show possible.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to talk about a limited time offer of subscriptions to Patriot.tv and how you can become a member of our Patriot Defenders subscription club and become a member of Patriot.tv. Really, it's America's network. I call it the home of truth. And you can do that for only $9.99 a month. It's a great deal by itself, but what I'm going to walk you through here in these next few seconds is a couple of package deals that we have that are unbelievable. The next membership was the annual membership at $99 that you can save. Right away, you save $20 if you come in at the annual subscription rate. The best deal that I think that people ought to seriously consider is the 2-year membership at $159. And it includes a special edition of my recently released documentary, Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. So along with the 2-year membership, the 2-year subscription will send you a DVD combo of the film, plus an option to stream the movie online, as well as exclusive interviews of Tucker Carlson, Devin Nunes, and myself. So go to the home of truth, right? Go to Patriot.tv today, sign up, seriously consider the 2-year subscription rate. It's an unbelievable savings. I think it's a total savings of about $70 from just signing up on a monthly or a annual basis. So thank you very much for your support. Patriot.tv is America's new network. Thank you.
Mark Schaffline with you, and I'm really happy to talk about a brand new show we're going to debut on Monday at 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific, Election Edge. We're going to talk politics, polling. We're going to give you great inside commentary behind the statistics. Who's up, who's down? Donald Trump, Vice President Harris, Cornel West, Jill Stein, Robert Kennedy, 3-way race, 2-way race. We'll break it all down for you. Election Edge starting Monday.
Women will win it for Harris. I'm with her all over again. Isn't this fun? But what about these women? The women that have been killed at the hands of people that were never supposed to be in our country. Nobody's talking about these beautiful women who were killed because Kamala Harris was the border czar. She was in charge of finding out the root cause of why all these migrants were coming in. Whatever you want to call it, she utterly failed. And they would still be alive if we had gotten to the root cause of the migration, as Kamala was tasked with. Here to discuss is one of the strongest women I know. She is Inez Annie Cyrus, an Iranian-American human rights activist, producer, founder of Live Up to Freedom with a show right here on Patriot TV. As a former child bride and survivor of Sharia law, she's dedicated to raising awareness about the oppression of women under Islamic regimes and advocating for freedom and equality. So I'm so excited to have you on here. I love your show. And let's talk women. Let's talk about VP Harris and how we're all supposed to rally behind her just because we are also XX chromosome. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on, Kristi, and right back at you. I love your show, and I do believe you're one of the strongest women I know in my life. And I guess I should answer. Wait, are we going to talk as women, as by definition, or as identity? Because apparently nowadays it's so different, right?
Doesn't it? Right?
Well, I tell you what, I'm personally not with her at all. And it's not that I'm not with her because she's a woman. I'm not with her because she hates America. That's why I'm not with her. Unfortunately, though, I do hear more and more every day on social media that I'm with her narrative going forward. And I wish for a moment our fellow Americans, man or woman, doesn't matter, would just think for a second. What is the role of United States of America's president? It is to literally defend and protect our nation and our people. Does Kamala Harris has what it takes to do that? Absolutely not. As you mentioned at the beginning of this segment, innocent Americans are being killed because Kamala cannot stand there and think, do I want the votes of illegals or do I want the safety of my fellow Americans? Clearly, she wants the votes of those illegals. So for anyone out there, after, how she's willing to bring her resume against Trump any day of the week, I don't even know what kind of resume she's talking about. But people need to look into her resume. She's done absolutely nothing, not a single act to help America, to help Americans, to do anything that would put America and Americans first. So I don't care what her gender is. I'm not with her. It is a nightmare to think she would even be a candidate, let alone one day, God forbid, be the president of the United States of America.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if, even as James Carville was saying earlier, if this is just like a honeymoon phase and what are they going to do if she drops off. The more that is revealed to her, especially as someone that's being propped up to be in defense of the Black community. And there's so much evidence that she has been responsible for making the Black community's lives worse, not in any way better. And so that's coming out, even to the point that Black Lives Matter is saying, like, what's going on? This isn't democratic at all. I mean, it's been wild to see all of this play out. But I do want to dig into, because you have a special insight into the assassination and how Iran is tied to it. And, you know, for many of us, when we first hear about this 20-year-old and all the security failures, and then suddenly he may have been tied to Iran, it was like, wait a minute, what? This 20-year-old that you were able to, I mean, there's just so many questions. I can't even get into it. It's going to take too long. But let's watch this video because you were sounding the alarm about this years ago. Let's watch this quick video about Iran's threats against Trump.
Director, when did the FBI learn that Iran was threatening President Trump's life?
So I want to be a little bit careful here, not to talk about specific classified information, but we have been for quite some time, and I'll stick with what's in the open record. We, for some time, and I in particular for some time, have been calling out the efforts by the Iranian government to attempt to retaliate for the killing of Soleimani by going after current or former prominent U.S. officials, and we've even had an indictment against it. And I think that we need to recognize the brazenness of the Iranian regime, including right here in the United States.
So again, none of those threats were recent, but suddenly they were quick to say, oh, that he was under threat. We even beefed up security. That was a lie. He had less security. So what are your thoughts on that? Because you were one to first break these threats, and we may watch that other video in a moment. But what are your first thoughts about his response and why we're hearing about this now?
Well, my very first response was, really? Starting February of 2022, Islamic Republic of Iran's IRGC is starting publicly. That's not classified information. Publicly, they put out the bounties on President Trump directly first, and then his administration, who were involved with the killing of Qasem Soleimani from 2022, February of 2022, until day before July 12th, day before the assassination attempt. Nobody knew about it. As he mentioned, we had DOJ had an indictment against IRGC member, an Iranian citizen who was plotting to kill John Bolton. They had the information. Why would they suddenly come out and talk about it? Now, Director Wray is always careful of how much detail he gives out. We all know why. It's the, politics behind covering their own, what. But suddenly they're very interested in, oh, Iran dangerous, Iran dangerous. What are the possibilities? Is this them getting ready to blame IRGC when they try to take another shot at President Trump, so they can guarantee that Americans will believe this was just some Islamic terrorist group? Or is it really that they have some leads of this assassination attempt does have ties to IRGC? The sad news, Kristi, is we never know the truth because they hide it from us all the time. But either way, the fact that now they're talking about it should be a red flag for Americans.
Absolutely, because again, you were one that was breaking this news as far back as February of 2022 on the Brandon House show about this threat, and they're just now talking about it. But trying to tie it. My thing is they're trying to tie it to this 20-year-old unknown that apparently had no social media footprint, They weren't able to get into his phone. He had encrypted. It's all so weird. Do you think there's any truth to a connection, there being a connection between Thomas Crooks, the 20-year-old that is accused of assassinating the president, and Iran? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I would say there is no direct tie, for the fact that I know if there was, the regime of Iran would be on cameras all day long bragging about it. However, do I think the money behind as the bounty involved could have motivated him? Absolutely. It has motivated many Islamic sympathizers. It has motivated a lot of Iranian Americans, unfortunately, because it's a big money. And those who already have the hatred for President Trump wouldn't mind being rewarded for doing the dirty work of IRGC for them and collect the money. That's a problem for your audience who are not familiar with Islamic bounties. They really motivate people with money. And Iran has a lot of money. There's a lot of money involved for President Trump, his administration involved, for all the, anti-Islamic speakers out there. There are too many people who will gladly go do the killing and collect the money.
And I got to say, I was impressed with the production value of their video that was threatening President Trump. You released that again on your program back in January of 2023. And again, your show is the tip of the spear ahead of all of this, and released this video. And it's just such a creepy video. I actually saw it the first time today. So let's show that video and we'll discuss on the other side. I mean, I hate to say it, but that is well done. The music and everything, very creepy and very enlightening about what a real threat this truly is, and still may be. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that we should be concerned that this is still a threat?
Well, yes. I will give an example. Being born and raised in the Islamic Republic of Iran, one thing I can guarantee you, these mullahs, they hold a grudge. I believe in 1988, Ayatollah Khomeini, the supreme leader back then, issued a fatwa on a writer, Salman Rushdie, who wrote the book of satanic verses, mocking Muhammad as this mentally ill person. There was a bounty on his head that was issued in 1988 or 89, sometime there. And in August of 2022, a Lebanese American actually carried out the attack, stabbed him, I think, 23 times. Thankfully, he's alive. He lost the eyesight on the left side, some nerves on the left side. But my point is, when they issue a bounty on you, it doesn't go away. Now, when it's the revenge of one of their heroes like Qasem Soleimani, this is a serious threat. It has been, it will continue being a serious threat. And as I said before, many times the left will have no problem serving President Trump on a silver platter to IRGC. They will do that. So I really hope that President Trump decide and go forward with hiring his own private team. I have zero faith in Secret Service at this point. And again, as it was mentioned by, I believe, Congressman Jim Jordan, if a 20-year-old can get that close, imagine IRGC members who are trained and they celebrate death, how fast and how close they can get to President Trump at any point. On their own video, they mention, we pick the when and how to punish you. So this is a serious threat.
And yeah, it is a serious threat. And even if we can't say that this assassination was the cultivated by the deep state, was certainly they created conditions to allow this assassination attempt to happen. And so that was going to be my next question about if if he has enough security now, and you already answered it, that he should probably look into getting some extra security that is outside of the federal government. I couldn't agree more. I want to ask you about how the situation at the border, you think, exacerbates the threat. Do you think it's possible that we currently have the IRGC here now and could plan something because our borders have been so open?
100%. Not only, Kristi, not only we have IRGC soldiers in our country, we also have Hamas, ISIS, Hezbollah. Now, let me very quickly give a briefing on IRGC is the head of all these groups. IRGC stands for Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. It was created in 1979 by Khomeini, but it wasn't created as Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. It was for Islamic, meaning they provide protection for all Islamic groups and countries and governments. They went and created Hezbollah in Lebanon. They went ahead and provided weaponry and training to Hamas in Gaza border. Now, we brought 60,000 plus Afghans. Who can prove it? Do you know if there were Afghans? Because I know for a fact not all of them were Afghans. I was looking at the pictures of the planes, and I spotted Palestinians, I spotted Iranians, I spotted Syrians. I know to Americans, they all look the same, not to us. We can differentiate each other. We imported some of their soldiers, not we, Biden regime imported some of their soldiers into America during the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. So yes, they do have their Hamas, Hezbollah, and IRGC members all across our country. And then they made a deal with cartel to import even more of them through the border, the open border, the flood at the border. Cartel receives weapons from IRGC, in return passes their soldiers through the border. And that's why every week, I'm waiting for them to blow a building up or start mass shooting in one of our events. Because that's the next thing. I said it 6 months ago. I said, if they can to stop Trump from running, they will try to put him in prison. If that doesn't happen, they're going to try to kill him. If that fails, they're going to create some sort of chaos internally to postpone the elections. Not saying I'm a prophet. So far, 3 out of 4 guesses came through.
Yeah.
Is the 4th one coming? I hope not, but it looks like it is.
Yeah. And perhaps they are just waiting until we are closer to the election as an excuse to hold things off. So we've talked about the influx of people we don't know because we don't even count the gotaways or anything. And then we have this situation now where there's become a lot of sympathy for Palestinians and what's going on there. No one wants to see war crimes that take the life of innocent women and babies and children. And so there's certainly some deserved sympathy there about how this is all going down. But to that end, there is a lot of people that just hop on the bandwagon. Some have admitted that they've been paid to show up. We just saw what happened in DC with the burning of the flag and the raising of the Palestinian flags and all of that. We also see as in Michigan, as the population there that embraces Sharia law gets larger. So it's conditions, all this to say is conditions are such that because there's a lack of education on the full gravity of this, we're more in a position where people are more sympathetic to hearing about Islam, embracing Sharia law that they know nothing about. How do you see that as being a threat? I mean, as someone that can truly speak to the violence it poses to women, your experience as a former child bride, what can you tell me about that?
That is a question that I can answer for a full hour, but I'll give you the
No.
short version.
It's a
Number
heavy
one,
one to be like, let me know in like 5 minutes that your life story and why you're so passionate about it. No, but I mean, I guess just what you can, an appeal you can make about it.
well, the very first thing I'm going to say, let's just put the entire Sharia part aside for a minute. Let's look at what happened in DC. We are supposedly going to believe a narrative that Islam is a religion of peace. Muslims are looking to peacefully coexist. We didn't see any peaceful movement in DC. We didn't. We saw a lot of aggression. We saw them screaming at police officers saying, "We're coming for you. We're going to burn you and your country down." Listen, they're telling you what they're planning. Are we really going to not believe what they're telling us? I guess some people are. Now let's bring in the Sharia aspect into what they really believe. Inside the Quran itself says, do not call for peace when you are majority in numbers, meaning when you outnumber them, then don't go for peace anymore. May Allah be with you on that war. So that's number one. Inside Quran again says, behead them wherever you find them. Who are them? The non-believers. Who are the non-believers? Non-Muslims. You've seen them do it. You've seen them scream Allahu Akbar, behead people, shoot people, blow themselves up. They've done it repeatedly. The proof is right in front of you. It's, I mean, free will and all. You choose what you want to believe, whatever is more comforting. But the truth of the matter is there are no post-Islamic nations. Every 50 countries that are Islamic today, they never survived afterwards. They stayed Islamic, and that was the end of them. So we need to be careful of how much we're going to give them room to take over our constitution or our country. Look, they took down American flag and raised up their own Palestinian flag, a land that doesn't exist. You tell me what we should take out of that.
Now, some of the pictures that have come out, Netanyahu coming and visiting, who has spurred this war going on in his own right. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't agree with Netanyahu on actually a lot of things, especially the last 3-4 years of my life. I don't. However, I will say that every turn, Netanyahu has retaliated, has reacted. Everything he's done at Gaza border has been to defend his people. So I don't agree with, he's a genocidal monster. He's not. And again, I don't agree with everything he does. I want to be very clear. I'm not defending him as a whole entity of a government, but I do know whatever he's doing is to defend his people in his country. Was I a big fan of his speech? Not really, because he's still playing the two-state narrative, not because he said the two-state, no, being nice, but not being nice. But I do believe Biden administration has triggered a lot of what's happening here in Israel, Gaza border, Iran, all of that. So I guess bottom line is I'm on his side for the fact that he's very much cornered by his own friends and allies. So what do we expect him to do? Just sit down, roll over and take it and let Muslims kill all of his people, or come here and be nice about it and go tell protesters, I'm sorry? It's a complicated situation.
Yeah.
But I'm on his side at the moment. I do believe he's doing the best he can without being dragged into another international crime court.
Okay. Awesome. Well, there's so much more we could talk about. I'm fascinated always talking to you. So if you want more of Inez Annie Cyrus, you can watch her on Live Up to Freedom Saturday and Sunday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. And we'd love to have you back as well. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kristi. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. You bet. All right. Up next, how is Kamala viewed by other foreign leaders? And does that itself put us at a national security risk? We're discussing that and more with political analyst Jake Novak after the break, because we do need to hear from our sponsors that make this show possible. I want to encourage you to I know we all want to like fast forward through things or skip things, but please take the time to listen to those that make this show possible. Support them if you can, support the show if you can. We need to continue to have the counter narrative in a sea of propaganda. So watch this.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
I don't know about you, but I have to have that cup of coffee in the morning. And Kingdom Cup is mold-free, it is pesticide-free, and it is organic. It's got this flavor that is delicious. You don't even have to put cream or sweetener in it.
Why did we go with the bean form, the whole bean? Because ultimately the powder form is the one that gathers the most moisture. And that means the more potential mold development. This is actually organic, mold-free, certified. That's important because ultimately people drink coffee. It's cultural. And so we tried to meet the culture where it is and create a healthy alternative.
Make the healthy choice for you and your family. Try mold-free, pesticide-free, and it's organic. Delicious Kingdom Cup coffee. And it's available now at the Patriot TV store. Go to patriot.tv and click on store. You'll find Kingdom Cup coffee in the health and wellness section. Order Kingdom Cup coffee at the Patriot TV store now.
So Kamala Harris, we saw her skip Netanyahu's address to Congress. Well, top Democrat senators boycott altogether, but she did meet with him. Here to discuss is Jake Novak, a 30-year veteran, TV news producer, editorial columnist, former diplomat, and the host of The Analysts. So thank you so much for being here, Jake.
My pleasure. First time joining your show. Excited.
I love it. I hope you'll keep coming back because you're a fellow TV veteran. You know how the sausage is made, if you will, when it comes to these kinds of things. So let me first ask you what your thoughts were on Netanyahu's address to Congress.
Well, I think there's one word that you can sum up his address, and it was clarity. You know, this was a tremendous gift of clarity that Netanyahu gave to all those members of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats. The first thing he gave them was the evidence and the very clear message that this slur about Israel committing genocide is just that. It's a slur. It's ridiculous. He quoted the West Point expert who showed that Israel is doing more than any country in the history of urban warfare to protect civilians. Now, that's a really important tool for these members of Congress to have when they go back to their constituents, because they're going to get questions now as they go back to start campaigning about it. And they now have that piece of evidence to work with. The second gift he gave them was the clarity about who these protesters are. He again quoted people who are not Israeli, but in this case, even from the Biden administration, who have now definitively shown that these violent protesters, these vandals, these disgusting anti-Semites are being funded by Iran through some shell corporations, shell organizations, I should say, here in the United States. And of course, the biggest applause came when he said these people are now useful idiots for Iran, because they were relieved to hear that. Thank goodness. Now they can go back to their constituents and say, and have more confidence when they say, we're going to crack down on these protesters. We're not going to worry about First Amendment stuff with them. After a while, we'll give them their First Amendment rights, but then we don't have to worry about it further because we know that they're connected to terrorists. So clarity, Kristi, that was really what he gave them. These are gifts in politics. You don't get clear that much in politics all that often, and he gave it to them.
Well, and it's clarity that some missed because they chose to protest and not watch the address at all. But we did see that Kamala did end up meeting with Netanyahu. She had some remarks afterwards that didn't sound very favorable. And there's always the insurrection that we witnessed by the protesters about his being there, that she took quite a long time to condemn in any meaningful fashion. What were your thoughts on that and her remarks after meeting with him?
Well, my first thought was amateur hour. If this is the kind of campaign decisions the Kamala Harris team is going to make, they're in big trouble. This was a slam dunk, easy layup that she missed by not going to the speech. Remember, what's her issue? Among many, but one of her many big issues is that she doesn't really have any foreign policy chops. She has no experience there. All she had to do was show up at this speech. It was a place that Joe Biden wasn't going. It was a place that Donald Trump wasn't going. This was her chance to really stand on that world stage and start running towards the center. She's not in a primary. Sadly, we're not getting any democracy out of the Democratic Party. She immediately on day one needed to start running towards the center, running towards the middle, and the middle of America, the middle voters in America are overwhelmingly supportive of Israel. The middle voters in America are a lot like John Fetterman. They support Israel. And she should have done that. She didn't have to be fawning over him. She could have said some words of caution. That would have been fine. But not showing up was real amateur hour. I think the meeting with him yesterday obviously made up for it a little bit, just a little bit, not much. But then she came out with a statement talking about basically kind of accusing Israel of exactly what Netanyahu clarified the day before. Basically saying, well, these Palestinian civilians are dying. They're dying because of Hamas. They're dying because they won't give up the hostages. They're dying because of October 7th. And if Kamala Harris or any Democrat, let me give them some free advice that they won't listen to. If any Democrat comes out and is really strong on Israel, really supports them, and really makes it clear who the bad guys are, their polls will go up, not down. Kamala Harris doesn't have any problems with the far left regressive part of the party. They're going to vote for her no matter what. It's the middle she's got to convince. This is where Biden's polls were weak too. But again, you have amateur hour. I believe that all political consultants are bad at what they do and are bad people, and they just keep proving me right every day.
And then as far as like those in the middle, like the undecided independents, I try and have conversations with everyday Americans, if you will, that one being my hairdresser. And it was interesting. I just asked her questions, what she's thinking about things. And this is someone that's typical, like only partially engaged in what's going on, not like you and I who are kind of in it all the time. It was just interesting to hear her thoughts on Kamala now running for president because, one remark that stuck out to me is that she was concerned with these conflicts going on, how a woman, let's face it, we know what a woman is. She is a woman, how she would be received by other foreign leaders. And that was concerning to her with these conflicts going on. And so thoughts on that? I mean, when you think about her meeting with Putin or especially, she puts herself in this position to be a fierce defender of the Palestinians in many respects, again, like skipping out on Netanyahu's address and protest. But, this is largely from a religion that is very out there and open about not respecting women. So how do you think that would play into foreign policy? I know we're not supposed to be allowed to talk about that, but I mean, it's a reality, right?
Yeah, but the Muslim nations and Iran in particular aren't worried about her gender. They're interested in co-opting her like so many members of the Biden administration and the State Department and the Obama administration before them that they've successfully co-opted. Kamala Harris owes a lot of where she is now to the anti-Israel, anti-Semitic forces within this administration and the State Department. They played a big role in pushing Joe Biden out because even though I've been unsatisfied overall, there's been some good things, but overall with the way Joe Biden has responded since October 7th, the anti-Israel, anti-Semitic forces in the White House are furious. They wanted someone even more anti-Israel, even more threatening, even more likely to use these lies about Israel and genocide and things like that. And they played a big role in getting Biden out. And so she's got to play a little bit of a game with them because they're a big reason why she's there. Iran has many assets in this White House and many assets in the State Department. This we know for a fact. We keep getting blown away or sent in the wrong direction about this whole head fake about Michigan voters. Yes, it's true. There are voters in Michigan who will vote for a more anti-Israel candidate. Sure. But that's the secondary part of the story. They're not doing this because they want Michigan's votes. They're doing it because they are doing what their handlers in Iran want from them. I mean, that's really what's been going on. It was certainly going on during the Obama administration when he made this strange pivot in his second term and blew all of his political capital for winning a second term on the Iran nuclear deal, which no one was pounding the table for in New York or even in Michigan, or and no one was who was calling for this. We still don't know. Of course, we do know it was Iran and their influencers in the administration. So that's the first thing. Iran is looking at her and hoping to have as much influence over her as they did over Barack Obama. And they've got a good shot at it, Kristi. They have a very good shot at it. And this is something that I would like the Trump campaign and the American people to start asking. Why were you part of this pro-Iranian administration that Joe Biden presided over? And can you change that, please? This needs to be out in the open because Iran is campaigning for Kamala just as much as she's campaigning for president.
And now they're also at the same time claiming Iran was part of a plot to kill a former presidential candidate. So it's all wild. I mean, such good insight that you have. That being said, we talked about Kamala and Netanyahu. Now Trump is scheduled to meet Bibi at Mar-a-Lago today. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, first of all, it's yet another example of how the media narrative and the false narrative about Donald Trump keeps getting blown up. We just look at the facts, folks. The idea that Donald Trump holds grudges that he never forgets. Like, how could he have chosen J.D. Vance as his running mate if that were true? He certainly was not happy at Benjamin Netanyahu in the days after the election when he gave an early congratulations to Joe Biden. But I think that Donald Trump forgot about that in about 3 minutes, okay? He clearly isn't holding any grudges. Benjamin Netanyahu needs this meeting with Trump more than Trump needs the meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. Donald Trump is really, really, really popular in Israel, okay? So if you're a prime minister of Israel from whatever party you're from or from whatever faction you're from, you've got to go meet Donald Trump, even if you weren't running for president. That's how popular he is. So that's the first thing. The second thing is it's important that Benjamin Netanyahu meets with Trump so that the world and the American voter understands and is reminded of the policies that the Trump administration enacted that were really good for Israel, the United States, and the whole region. They should be reminded of the Abraham Accords. They should be reminded of how we got tougher on Iran and helped choke off a lot of the money that went into Iran. They should be reminded that Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu together, no matter what the conspiracy theorists say, do not want a war with Iran. There should not be one American soldier or sailor ever in harm's way for Israel's sake or for a war with Iran. It's not necessary, Kristi. All we have to do is stop giving them so much darn money. It's so stupid and so obvious. And, when you hear people saying, well, the only option other than giving money is war, that's what Ben Rhodes said when Obama was president. It's just not true. It never was true. And in fact, all we do is get more death when more money goes in there. So I hope, and I'm pretty sure, that after they meet today, there's going to be a discussion of how great these policies were, how we should go back to them no matter who was elected president in November. And hopefully that will be on the forefront of the American people's minds. And hopefully it won't be hijacked by these anti-Semites and conspiracy theorists who think that Israel wants the United States to send troops into Iran. Nobody wants that. The only people who are saying that are people who are trying to do another blood libel against Israel and Americans who support Israel.
Now, I want to ask you about Trump and his meeting of foreign leaders as a presidential candidate, meeting with him, and then he had a phone call with Zelensky. And I'm already seeing people on social media saying, oh, the Logan Act, and he shouldn't be doing this. How is he having these meetings? And then you'll remember, obviously, the impeachment where about the perfect phone call with Ukraine. And so is he setting himself up for a whole nother situation where he'll be accused of saying or doing something wrong? Like, does he have the authority to meet with foreign leaders where he's at right now? I myself could use some clarification on that.
Well, the first thing is to remember, and this is true of everything in life, do not do anything to please the people who hate you anyway. You will never succeed. That's never going to happen. It's never going to work. So that's the first thing. And that's my advice to you and everybody else there. And of course, to Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't need my advice on that. So that's the first thing. There are some very, very specific aspects of the Logan Act and those kinds of things that, first of all, the fact that it's a very public meeting really pretty much takes care of most of the problems. Now, don't put it past the lawfare corrupt people in the Justice Department who have made crimes that where they don't exist when it comes to Donald Trump. But I really feel like the air has gone out of that tire, don't you? I mean, I really feel like the lawfare attack on Donald Trump now is now mostly something that they're referring to in the past. Because first of all, I think that conviction is going to be overturned in the hush money trial, and second of all, it didn't go over with the American people the way that they thought it would. I don't think it was completely a negative for them, but it didn't really gain them any net points. It didn't. So I think that in this case, there are a lot of things that are going to indemnify Donald Trump from any kind of legal action as far as this is concerned. And remember, if the foreign leaders want to meet with someone who is a candidate right now or someone who is a former president to talk about policies and how they've gone since he was president, there's nothing you can do, but there's nothing illegal about that. And again, of course, there's going to be people accusing him. Of course, there'll be someone who says, I wanted a Justice Department investigation. Sure, that's going to happen. But that's going to happen if Donald Trump chews gum and walks at the same time. It's really not something that he can't live that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about this historical event of the assassination. I saw that, someone had posted if this picture, the famous picture that's going around of him with his fist up and the flag behind him, if this had been anyone else, it would be on all of the magazine covers. It would go down in history. I mean, sometimes it's like a reality check. Like, this just happened. Like, this is only 2 weeks old and we're kind of like throwing it under the rug. He was nearly killed. Now we're getting around to a bipartisan committee. Want to get your reaction on the committee after what we saw with January 6th, after, decades and decades later, never finding out the true story, specifically about the JFK successful assassination attempt. What are your thoughts there?
Well, first of all, I'm glad that you're expanding, some of the questions about this, because this needs to be something about more than what just happened a couple of Saturdays ago in Pennsylvania. This needs to be something about the entire standard operating procedure of our intelligence committees, of our three-letter agencies, the FBI, the CIA, and then of course the Secret Service, because we have so many decades now, and in recent years it's ramped up, of questionable behavior by these agencies. Now, if I had to hazard a guess about, Thomas Crooks, the shooter, I would say that he probably was yet another one of these people who people warned the FBI and their local police department about more than once. We're probably going to find out about that. But even if he isn't, we've had so many cases like that, haven't we, Kristi, where we've heard about this? And it's pretty clear what the FBI's standard operating procedure is. They very often decide not to arrest and stop in their tracks these terrible, terrible people, because the way that they make advances in their careers, these FBI guys, is to make more arrests. In other words, the aggregate number. So, for example, they'll deal with the Whitey Bulger, who was the biggest Irish mobster in America and a huge murderer for decades, in the hopes that he'll turn in some of the people he's dealing with, and they'll get a dozen arrests instead of one big arrest that people will forget tomorrow. What about the same thing with the Orlando nightclub shooting? An FBI asset. Okay, so this has to be something that I would address right now. It's almost like the Church Commission that looked into the CIA and our intelligence agencies. Yeah. We need a standing committee in Congress that forever looks into basically the way that these organizations, the FBI and the Secret Service, works. We also need someone to very much push back on the Secret Service still being under the auspices of the Homeland Security Department. Used to be under Treasury. Treasury isn't perfect, Kristi, but Treasury is a much less corrupt and corruptible department than Homeland Security, which was corrupt and bloated on day one. I would introduce a bill right now if I were a senator or a member of Congress to push the Secret Service back into Treasury. It would make it less politicized and it would make it more streamlined and more efficient. So all of these things need to be addressed. We need to go way beyond what happened 2 Saturdays ago in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. Well, I am just about out of time. So, Jake, where can we get more of your analysis? I mean, after all, you have a show that has that in its name. So where can we watch you?
Yes, I'm the host of The Analyst, which is as unbiased as possible, but will still hopefully smart show that we do on YouTube. It's called The Analyst with Jake Novak. You can just search that on YouTube. But my Substack is also very active, jakenovak.substack.com. And the easiest way to see what I'm doing all the time is just follow my Twitter X feed, because that's where I link to everything. And my Twitter X handle is @JakeJakeNY, 2 Jakes, @JakeJakeNY. And I'll get all the links, including to this program, everything, just so that everyone knows what I'm doing all the time.
Awesome. Well, pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your analysis. And we look forward to having you back soon.
Thanks a lot, Kristi.
You bet. All right, another quick break. I'll be back on the other side with your verse of the day.
Sounds rolling. All 3 cameras. We're good. Andy, speed.
Is there any regrets that you have in life? I should sit here and say, yeah, I got a lot of regrets. But when I look back on my life and I understand the lives that were lost, I mean, I'm sitting here with you. And I can tell my story.
Former National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, pleaded guilty today to lying to the FBI.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
Really brilliant military career, serving 33 years.
Why was he being so elusive?
Mike Flynn told the truth and faced life in prison.
Every American needs this historical DVD keepsake. Flynn delivered the truth, whatever the cost. Hand signed by General Michael Flynn, one of America's most treasured military heroes. Order now at the Patriot TV store. Go to Patriot TV, click on Store, and grab a once-in-a-lifetime chance to own a treasured piece of American history. And get your own personal download link to watch America's most talked-about movie, as well as a DVD hand-signed by General Michael Flynn. Use promo code PTV at checkout to get special savings. The Patriot TV store. Incredible savings and a secure, hassle-free shopping experience.
All right, welcome back. Again, please support our sponsors that make this show possible. You can also support this show in particular, Counter Narrative. You can go to patriot.tv/counter narrative. Right there, you'll see all my former shows. If you become a Patriot Defender subscription Club member, you will have access to everything. You can pay just $9.99 a month, makes a huge difference, or you can save even more with an annual subscription or a 2-year subscription and even get some more extras. Gives you all access to everything, supports the show in particular. If again, you sign up on that landing page, patriot.tv/counter narrative. And again, support our other sponsors that you've been seeing, like Patriot Mobile /PTV and the Sherwoods. So here's the verse of the day, 2 Chronicles 30:9. For the Lord your God is gracious and compassionate. He will not turn his face from you if you return to him. I really encourage you to pray this prayer over our country. We do need to turn back to God. We need to repent so that he can heal our land. And I'm going to continue to hammer that in. We serve a God who can do big things, and we pray that he does. Also, you can join me on Locals. Just search Kristi Leigh on Locals or go to kristileighTV.locals.com. I have a daily devotional show Monday through Friday, 7:30 Eastern, and just wake up with me and dig into God's word and encourage each other. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to share the Counter Narrative.
Now I'm on the right side.